Well, Jerome Powell just wrapped up his annual Jackson Hole speech last week, and the markets, well, they went nuts. Stocks soared, rate cut odds jumped, and suddenly, kind of feels like the Fed is calling the shots on everything. But here's the kicker: what Powell didn't say may matter even more than what he did say. All right, let's roll that intro, and then we'll unpack it. Welcome back. I'm Chris Hobart, the Wealthologist. All right, let's go ahead and dig on in. Last Friday, Jerome Powell, well, he gave his annual Jackson Hole speech. Well, the headline, he suggested the Fed may warrant adjusting policy. Well, let's translate that for the regular folks in town. Wall Street thinks that we're getting a rate cut in September. And sure enough, stocks popped like it was 1999 again. But here's where it gets kind of interesting. You see, Powell made it sound like the Fed's entire toolbox comes down to just one thing: short-term interest rates, specifically the federal fund rates. That's it. Now, here's the thing. Don't get me wrong. The Fed fund rate is extremely important. It's like the heartbeat of the global financial system. But is it really the only thing that drives our economy? History, if we look at that, it says maybe not. I want you to think back. After 2008, the Fed held rates near zero for 7 years. No inflation boom, no huge economic surge. In fact, the growth was pretty sluggish at that time. Now let's fast forward to COVID. Same zero rates, but this time we got the highest inflation in 40 years, nearly 9%, and still sluggish growth. So here's the thing. Maybe rates alone, they're not the magic lever that Powell wants them to be. Now, here's the thing. What did change? Well, we talked about it before. It's the money supply. You see, after 2008, it stayed relatively stable. But during COVID, man, it absolutely exploded. That's what fueled inflation, not just interest rates. And yet, when Powell got up on stage in Wyoming this past week, he barely mentioned money supply, the Fed's balance sheet, or the fact that they've ballooned their holdings from 800 billion to 6.6 trillion since 2008. I got to tell you, folks, that's more than a 7 times increase. Here's the part that really blows my mind. The Fed is now paying private banks about $200 billion a year just to hold reserves. Meanwhile, it's losing about $100 billion annually itself. All right, so how do we boil this down? Well, let's face it, if a hedge fund did this, they'd be shut down in a week. But when it's the Fed, it's silence. No tough questions from reporters, no accountability. And let's not forget, Powell also announced the Fed is changing its framework. You see, back in 2020, they wanted inflation to average 2% over time. Basically, they were fine letting it run hot to make up for years of low inflation. Well, how'd that work out? Right. We had the worst inflation spike in 4 decades. Now they are scrapping that and they're going back to a hard 2% target. Translation? It sounds like an excuse to cut rates again. So here's my take. The Fed is pretending short-term rates are the be-all, end-all of economic policy. But they're ignoring the massive balance sheet expansion and runaway money supply that actually drives inflation and growth. It's kind of like trying to steer a car by only adjusting the radio volume. Can we all agree that's just the wrong lever? So here's my bottom line. Rates matter, but they're not the whole story. Money supply and balance sheet policies matter too. Quite frankly, way more than Powell wants to admit. And if the Fed keeps ignoring the elephant in the room, I got to tell you, I think we're in for more surprises, and not the good kind. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think the Fed really understands how much impact its balance sheet has on the economy? Or maybe are they just playing rate games while ignoring the bigger picture? Drop your thoughts in the comments section. I'll be reading them. And, hopefully this helped you see through some of the Fed's smoke and mirrors. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And please share this with somebody that might be wondering why their grocery bill is still sky high and if they're worried about it going even higher. Because understanding the Fed isn't just for Wall Street. It affects every single one of us. All right, I'm Chris Hobart, the Wealthologist. We'll see you next week.